They say turning 18 is a milestone. For my son, it was a party. For me, it was the day I disappeared. I stood in the kitchen, holding a vanilla cake, his favorite since he was 8. Back then, he loved when I sang Happy Birthday, off-key, and let him lick the spoon. This year, I barely got a glance. He walked past me, fixing his collar. "Mom, don't make it a big deal, okay? It's just a birthday." Then out the door. No hug, no card, just silence, and the sound of his friends cheering in the driveway. I sat down at the dining table, still in the dress I bought just for tonight. The frosting began to melt. One candle flickered, then died. The room smelled like sugar and disappointment. Even the balloons felt like they were sagging on purpose. That's when my phone buzzed. "Congratulations, you've been promoted to marketing director." I stared at the screen. Through the blur of tears and melting buttercream, something inside me shifted. Maybe the most important milestones aren't marked by someone else's celebration, but by the moment you finally celebrate yourself. I wasn't always invisible. For most of his childhood, it was just me and Ethan. No co-parent, no family backup, just me, a paycheck that barely stretched, and a fridge magnet that said, "You got this, Mama." And for years, I really thought I did. He used to scribble notes and tuck them in my purse. "You're the best cooker." "Don't forget your coffee today, Mommy." I kept everyone. They're still in a shoebox under my bed, between report cards and construction paper hearts. I worked double shifts so he could have name-brand cleats. Skipped dinner so he'd never feel hunger. Sat in cold bleachers, wet from rain, cheering like every goal was the Super Bowl. And no, I never complained. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't start noticing. The way he stopped saying, "love you," before bed. How his phone became the conversation I used to be. The silence during car rides that used to be filled with knock-knock jokes. I told myself, it's a phase. Teenagers pull away. But a small, shameful part of me whispered back, what if it's not just a phase? What if I've already lost him, and I'm the only one who didn't notice? So when his 18th birthday came around, I poured everything into it. The cake, the decorations, the new dress I couldn't really afford. I thought, no, hoped, this would bring us back, that he'd see me again. But here's the truth. Sometimes you try to recreate a moment that no longer exists, and all you do is prove it's already gone. I woke up early. Before the sun even cracked the sky, I was in the kitchen, tying my apron, flour on the counter, coffee brewing, candles waiting in their box. This was the day, 18, not just a number, a threshold, and for a single mom like me, it meant I'd made it. I shaped the cake by hand, vanilla sponge with buttercream swirls and a stripe of blue icing. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. I wrote, "Happy 18th Ethan," in crooked letters and smiled like I'd won the lottery. I cleaned the house top to bottom, put on his favorite playlist, and set out party cups with gold trim. I even arranged his old baby photos down the hallway, each one a breadcrumb leading to this moment. The toddler in the dinosaur hoodie, the boy missing his 2 front teeth, the little man who once said, "Mommy, I'll buy you a castle when I'm big." I ironed my dress, nothing flashy, just simple navy blue, and touched up my lipstick 3 times. And I waited. His friends were supposed to come by. Just a small group, nothing wild. He said he wanted it low-key, just chill, Mom. I told myself I'd stay out of the way, let him have space, let him shine, but when he walked in, no smile, no thanks, Mom, not even a glance at the table, the cake, the hours I'd folded into this day, just a shrug. Can you not make it weird? And then he disappeared into his room, door clicking shut, like punctuation on a sentence I never got to finish. I stood in the hallway, holding a lighter that never got used, and somewhere deep down, I knew this wasn't just about a birthday. Something had changed, and it wasn't going back. I stood in the hallway for longer than I care to admit, still holding the lighter, still hoping somehow he'd come back out and say, "Sorry, Mom, let's cut the cake." But the door stayed shut. The music got louder. Voices joined in. Friends. Laughter. A girl's voice I didn't recognize. I waited another 5 minutes, then 10. Eventually, I blew out the unlit candles and put the cake back in the fridge. I figured, maybe he just needed a moment. Teenagers get overwhelmed, right? Maybe he'd come out after a while and surprise me. But what surprised me was how easy it was for him to forget. Later that night, I heard footsteps in the kitchen. I peeked from the hallway, not wanting to make it weird. He was there with his friends, pulling soda cans from the fridge, laughing, carefree. The cake was still in there, uncut, unseen. He reached past it like it wasn't even there. No one mentioned it. No one asked, whose birthday was this supposed to be again? That was the moment. That was the line. It wasn't just that he didn't thank me. It's that I wasn't even seen. The same boy who once cried when I missed a single soccer game now couldn't make eye contact with the woman who made his whole life possible. I didn't yell, didn't cry. I just stood there in the hallway, in my navy blue dress, watching them live a moment I wasn't invited to. And then he looked up, just for a second, saw me standing there, and said, "Mom, can you not just go to bed or something?" It hit harder than a slap. I wanted to scream. I wanted to say, "Do you have any idea what today meant to me?" But instead, I turned off the hallway light, one bulb at a time, and let the silence answer for me. But what I didn't know was that this wouldn't be the last time he'd forget who I was, not even close. The next morning, I found a note on the counter, his handwriting, sloppy, rushed, still a little boy in the curves of his letters. "Sorry about last night. Big test today. Rain check on the cake?" And below it, "I got something planned for you. Promise." It was something, a flicker of the boy I used to know. And maybe, just maybe, I let that little sentence stitch something back together inside me. All day at work, I played it over in my head. "I got something planned for you." Was it a gift? A dinner reservation? Maybe he was planning a little mom appreciation moment. He was never good with timing, but maybe he was trying. Maybe this was his way of saying, "I see you." I came home early, warmed up the cake, lit a single candle, just one, put out 2 forks again like before, and waited. At 7:13, I got a text. "Sorry, test got moved. Gonna study late. Rain check again." No emoji, no love you, just flat words on a backlit screen. I stared at the candle until the wax dripped into the frosting. Then I blew it out, and this time I didn't put the cake back. I threw it away, whole, frosting, plate, candle, and all, because that was the second time in 2 days I waited in a room he never planned to enter. That was when I realized it wasn't that he forgot. It's that remembering me was no longer urgent. And maybe that's what growing up really means. Not rebellion, not slamming doors, but simply reprioritizing who you show up for. But life has a strange sense of timing, because the very next morning, while I sat alone at the kitchen table, wondering when I became optional, an email came through. Subject line, "Congratulations, you've been promoted." I stared at the screen for a full minute. Congratulations, you've been promoted to marketing director. The words felt disconnected, like they belonged to someone else's life, like they were sent to a version of me that didn't exist anymore. I'd waited so long for this, 10 years of late nights, missed vacations, taking on work no one else wanted. And here it was, right in the middle of my own quiet collapse. I didn't smile, didn't celebrate, just closed the laptop and sat there, blinking at the wall. The kitchen felt too bright, the silence too heavy. I could still smell the candle wax from the night before, burnt sugar and something else, like loss. I looked at the table, one fork, one mug, half a plate of toast I never touched. I used to picture this moment, standing in the office, being handed a plaque, applause echoing behind me. Instead, I was in sweatpants, barefoot, and the only sound was the hum of the fridge and the ache in my chest. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened the hallway closet and pulled out the photo box, not the curated album, the messy one, the shoebox stuffed with everything too personal to display, his baby teeth in a Ziploc, Mother's Day cards with crooked hearts, a finger painting that once said, "Mommy is magic." I sat on the floor, holding that drawing, and the tears came hard and fast. Not quiet, not graceful, ugly crying, shoulders shaking, the kind of cry that makes you forget how to breathe. Because I realized something. Somewhere along the way, I had turned myself into a side character in my own life, and no one, not even me, had noticed. But just as quickly as the tears came, I saw it. That email again, still sitting in my inbox, waiting for me to step back into my own story. The email was still open when I came back to it, unread technically, as if some part of me still wasn't ready to receive good news. Marketing director, full title, bold font, confetti gif embedded in the header, cheesy, corporate, but oddly touching. There it was, a role I had dreamed of for years, back when I worked from the supply closet because there weren't enough desks. A title I thought would mean I'd made it. And yet, in that moment, all I could think was, who do I even tell? Not Ethan, not after this week, not when he could barely spare me a glance, let alone a, "Congratulations, Mom." I walked into the bathroom, washed my face, and stared at my reflection. Puffy eyes, red nose, mascara smudge trailing like the tail of a storm. Then something shifted. Not big, not loud, just a flicker of something I hadn't felt in years. Pride. Not because someone gave me a title, but because I'd earned it without applause, without shortcuts, without needing to be seen. I didn't tell anyone that day, but I did something better. I pulled out my old navy blazer, the one I hadn't worn since my last in-person pitch meeting, pressed it, matched it with heels I'd nearly given away last spring. And the next morning, I walked into that office with my head high and my inbox clean. People clapped. My name was printed on a cake. A manager I'd once trained awkwardly handed me a bouquet. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I stood in a room and felt undeniably present. No one asked about my son. No one knew the war I'd just fought in my own kitchen, but it didn't matter, because that moment, it was mine, but I wasn't the only one watching. Later that night, Ethan saw the company post, the cake, the caption, "Big congrats to our newest director," and the look on his face. That's when everything started to shift. He didn't say anything that night, but I knew he'd seen it. The post had gone semi-viral on LinkedIn, one of those single mom rises to the top kinds of stories. People I hadn't spoken to in years were commenting, "You deserve this. Knew you'd make it someday. Your son must be so proud." That one stung. He hovered more than usual the next morning, kept walking past the kitchen, glancing at my phone like it might bite. I stayed quiet, calm, not out of spite, but because I had nothing left to prove. He finally broke the silence around 10:37 a.m. "Why didn't you tell me?" No anger, just confusion, maybe even guilt. I looked at him, really looked. There was a crease between his brows I hadn't noticed before. He was still my baby, but something in his eyes had grown up overnight. "I didn't think you were listening," I said. He didn't respond, just nodded once, then left the room. Later that afternoon, I got a text from his girlfriend. We weren't close. I barely knew her, but it said, "Hey, just wanted to say Ethan told me about your promotion. He said he was proud. He just doesn't know how to say it to you yet." I stared at that message longer than I should have, because part of me wanted to cry. Another part wanted to march into his room and ask, why now? But mostly, I just felt still. Maybe this wasn't the apology I had imagined, not a grand gesture, not even face to face, but it was something. And sometimes the first real twist isn't someone hurting you. It's realizing how long you've been waiting for them to fix it. But the second twist is when they finally try, right after you've stopped needing them to. It happened 3 days later. I was in the kitchen, loading the dishwasher, when I heard his footsteps behind me. Not rushed, not stomping, just there. He didn't speak right away, and I didn't turn around. We just stood there in that small silence that families live in when things break, but no one's ready to clean up yet. Then he said it, quietly, like he was still testing the words in his own mouth. "You looked happy in that photo." I kept wiping the counter. I was. Simple. True. He shifted his weight. I could feel it more than see it. "I didn't know it meant that much to you." This time I did turn. Not angry, not soft either, just eye to eye. "You didn't ask." And there it was. Not a scream, not a lecture, just the kind of sentence that lands like a weight on the chest. He blinked. Then, slowly, finally, he said, "I'm sorry." It didn't fix anything. It didn't rewind the candles or unthrow the cake, but it was a start. I nodded once, then said, "Next time you want to show me something, don't wait until I've stopped looking for it." He looked down, not ashamed, just young. "I saw the comments," he said. "Everyone said I must be proud." I didn't know how to answer. I almost laughed, not out of humor, but out of the strange ache of it all. "You don't have to say you're proud of me," I replied. "Just don't act like you're not." He nodded again, then awkwardly reached for a mug. Mine, actually. Hamburger Mom, the one he gave me in 2nd grade. He poured me coffee, added 2 sugars, no milk. He remembered. I didn't cry, didn't need to, because sometimes the most powerful confrontation is the one where no one raises their voice, but someone finally shows up. I used to think motherhood meant giving up your story so someone else could live theirs, skipping meals, shelving dreams, dimming your own light so theirs could shine brighter. And maybe for a while, that's exactly what it took. But I've learned something since then. Love isn't self-erasure. It's showing up fully as yourself so they know what it looks like when someone stands tall in their own skin. I don't regret the sacrifices, not the missed vacations, not the sleepless nights, not the way I stretched every dollar and every ounce of energy I had. But what I do regret is how long it took me to realize I didn't need permission to be proud of myself. You see, there's a dangerous lie we feed women, that their worth is tied to how much they disappear for others. I'm done disappearing. I am a mother. I am a director. I am a woman with stories outside the frame of family photos. And for the first time in years, I no longer need my son to see me, because I see myself. The truth is, milestones don't always come with candles and cake. Sometimes they arrive as quiet clarity, a coffee mug, a full inbox, a name on a plaque, and a moment, just one, when you whisper to yourself, "This matters, and so do I." I don't know if he ever truly saw me again, not as just mom, but as a woman who built a life, then rebuilt herself inside it. Some mornings we share coffee in silence. He still forgets birthdays, still leaves towels on the floor, but every now and then he looks at me a little longer, like he's remembering something, or maybe just noticing it for the first time. I don't ask for more, not anymore, because some milestones aren't celebrated, they're survived. And in the quiet, after the applause, you realize the person you became while no one was clapping might just be the strongest version of you yet. So no, I didn't get the birthday he forgot, but I got something else. A promotion, a reclaimed name, a reason to stop waiting. And if you're still waiting for someone to recognize your worth, let me ask you something. What if that someone is you?